Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
The moment shattered my world. Her phone buzzed, displaying the name Leon with a message preview. Tomorrow 3 p.m. Maybe earlier if you can slip away? My stomach nodded. Leon? Who was this man she'd never mentioned? Hours later, I spotted her laughing with him across a cafe table, leaning closer, her smile one I hadn't seen in years. Betrayal seared my chest, but I stayed hidden, watching as he kissed her cheek. My mind reeled. I needed more than proof. I needed to know why. What did she risk everything for? I vowed silently. They won't see me coming. Before we dive into the full story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you're enjoying this tale, don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss any of our upcoming stories. Chapter 1. I remember the February chill in Boston as something more than just cold air biting into my skin. It was an unease that settled over my daily life, frigid, unyielding, making each conversation feel tense and brittle. My wife, Janelle, and I once had a comfortable rhythm. We'd divide chores, chat easily about our days, plan playful weekends with our 2 young kids. But this winter, everything seemed off. She was distant, almost as if I was a tenant she tolerated rather than a husband she adored. Maybe the tension was partially my fault, I told myself at first. I work in cybersecurity for a major tech firm, with deadlines and on-call nights. Janelle, a paralegal downtown, had her own hectic schedule. We occasionally clashed over who'd pick up Ava, 6, and Logan, 4, from their school or extracurricular events. Still, this brand of tension was new, sharper like a creeping frost on a window pane. I'd attempt small gestures, bringing hot cocoa to her while she read legal briefs, offering foot rubs after her long days. She'd accept them, but seemed mentally elsewhere, eyes hooded, half smiles that never touched her gaze. In early February, I tried ignoring it. Maybe winter gloom weighed her down. By mid-February, a flicker of suspicion ignited. And by late February, that flicker had turned into a roaring storm of doubt I could no longer ignore. I'd grown accustomed to analyzing data, spotting patterns that spelled malicious intent in code or networks. The same instincts prodded me to notice Janelle's sudden changes in behavior. She'd talk in hushed tones on the phone, giggle at texts she refused to show me, or claim she needed extra hours at work, even though her paychecks didn't reflect overtime. We had 2 kids, and I wanted to believe she'd never do anything to jeopardize our stable life. But the tension remained, a quiet crack that threatened to break everything I valued. One night, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while she was upstairs bathing the kids. Glancing over casually, I thought I saw a name flash. Leon. A single text preview. Tomorrow 3 p.m.? Maybe earlier if you can slip away? My stomach nodded. Leon? I'd never heard that name from her. Usually, her phone contacts included attorneys she worked with, or her paralegal colleagues. This was new. My heart pounded as I locked the phone screen, stepping away before she came downstairs. That was the first jolt of reality. My wife was hiding something, maybe an affair, maybe an emotional fling. I told myself I needed more proof. Because if it were true, I'd need to be absolutely certain before I confronted her. I'm not the kind of guy who leaps into an argument with half-baked accusations. The lack of warmth between us only grew. Janelle would return from her so-called late nights at strange hours. Sometimes her clothes hinted at a perfume or cologne that wasn't ours. Our kids, Ava and Logan, were sharp enough to notice. Ava once asked, "Daddy, why is Mommy so tired in the morning? She says she's up working, but I hear her on the phone." I remember hugging Ava, whispering an excuse about Mommy's job being stressful. Inside, I felt my fear coiling tighter. We rarely did the small things we used to, cooking together on Friday evenings, reading stories side by side to the kids, or cuddling on the couch with a glass of wine after bedtime. Instead, Janelle would disappear into the bedroom, tapping furiously at her phone, or claim she was too exhausted to talk. Sometimes I'd see her with those guarded half-smiles like she had a private joke, a secret I wasn't in on. I forced myself to stay calm, to watch, to gather clues. What really kicked my suspicions into overdrive was how my once frugal wife suddenly splurged on high-end clothes, designer heels, a black cocktail dress that cost nearly a month's groceries, fancy purses. When I questioned her, she brushed it off as needing a professional image for a new potential promotion. I nodded stiffly, but my gut churned. We'd always discussed big purchases. Now she was burning money as if she had outside funds or outside motivations. Something was definitely happening. The first big red flag beyond the phone text from Leon appeared one cold Saturday in February when Janelle dressed up in a charcoal gray pencil skirt, matching blazer, and brand new heels that glistened in the hallway light. I asked casually, "Court meeting on a Saturday?" She laughed it off, saying her law firm had a special case requiring weekend hours. But the expression in her eyes was uneasy, as if she were lying to a boss, not her husband. She left after giving me a perfunctory peck on the cheek, whisking out the door before I could gather a follow-up question. An hour later, I checked her closet like a detective searching for a clue. Her old suits hung untouched. The new attire took prime real estate. Price tags still in the hamper, from shops we never frequented. A wave of betrayal rippled through me. If we had the money for that, why not discuss it? I tried to calm my swirling thoughts, focusing on the kids, but my cybersecurity training wouldn't let me rest. I recognized the signs of hidden apps on Janelle's phone, a disguised folder that might store private messages or photos. Her phone usage soared. Whenever I neared, she'd flick the screen off or tilt it away. Once, I glimpsed a suspicious icon vanish as she typed. In my line of work, you learn to spot these digital footprints like a hunter sees tracks in the wild. My entire being screamed that Janelle was in contact with someone, frantically covering her tracks. Rather than confront her blindly, I decided to methodically gather evidence. Leon might be a client, or a friend, or something else entirely. If it was purely professional, why the secrecy? Why the hush-hush calls and coded messages? My father once told me, "If you suspect a problem, verify the facts before exploding." That advice guided me now. The night that truly sealed my suspicion was a late return from a client dinner. She insisted her law firm needed her presence at a celebratory dinner. Fine, I thought. Lawyers do gather for dinners sometimes. But it was nearing 2 a.m. when I heard her key rattle in the front door. My heart pounded as I watched her tiptoe inside, breath reeking faintly of alcohol, hair tousled. She froze when she saw me awake in the living room. "James," she exclaimed, startled, forcing a laugh. "Why are you up?" I kept my voice steady, though my anger simmered. "Couldn't sleep. You said the dinner might run late. But 2 a.m.? She shrugged, eyes flicking away. "Clients wanted an after-party at some lounge. I didn't want to be rude." I asked calmly, "Which lounge?" She hesitated. Anderson's, I think, downtown." She stammered on a few details. Her timeline was off, referencing a bar I knew closed earlier. I forced a thin smile, nodding. She's lying. My heart sank, but my resolve hardened. If she could lie so smoothly, the betrayal was real. I inhaled the air around her. There it was again. That faint cologne. Not a feminine perfume, but a man's scent, expensive and bold. She froze under my stare, then hurried upstairs, mumbling she was exhausted. That cologne haunted me. I recognized the brand from ads featuring athletes, particularly baseball players, if I recalled correctly. A pricey brand that Janelle never liked when we browsed cologne counters. Yet there it was, lingering on her clothes, wrapping me in a swirl of suspicion so thick I could barely breathe. Next morning, she was up early, showering away any lingering scents, breezing out the door claiming she had urgent errands. She left me with the kids. Not that I minded, I loved spending time with them. But the way she so casually fled the house told me everything. She wasn't interested in a normal family weekend. That evening, I saw a partial reflection in her phone's camera lens as she typed near a window. A man's broad shoulder, clad in a Letterman jacket embroidered with the name Leon. My stomach sank. Star athlete. My mind traced local celebrities. The Boston Hurricanes baseball team boasted a star pitcher named Leon Morgan, known for his flamboyant style. Could that be him? If so, my wife was stepping into dangerous territory, especially if she was enthralled by his fame and money. I attempted a soft confrontation around dinner. "Who's Leon?" I asked casually while dishing out pasta. Janelle tensed for a split second before exhaling a light laugh. "Just a client, a star athlete. I'm helping him with some contract disputes. Nothing big." Her attempt at an airy tone fell flat. My chest burned with the sense she was lying. She insisted it was innocent, that I was paranoid. The tension escalated, but I backed off, deciding not to push yet. If she was lying, she'd bury herself deeper in half-truths. I'd watch and wait. That night, she claimed exhaustion again, turning her back on me in bed. I stared at the ceiling, fury and heartbreak swirling. Over the next week, the emotional distance was palpable. Janelle avoided eye contact, canceled our usual weekend routine of taking the kids to the aquarium, claiming a backlog of work. She didn't invite me to any law firm gatherings, rarely asked about my day. Logan, my 4-year-old, innocently asked, "Is Mommy mad at you, Daddy?" I forced a gentle smile, telling him everything was fine. But my anger simmered, pushing me to plan my next move. The decision was clear. I had to investigate thoroughly. No more trusting her vague excuses. I'd do so quietly, methodically, building an unassailable case. The first step, leverage my cybersecurity expertise to glean insights from her phone and digital footprints. The second step, see if her real-life movements matched her stories. That next morning, after Janelle left for work, I examined her phone using some carefully crafted scripts. I found locked folders, yes, but also partial backups that revealed location logs, messages referencing Seaside Lounge, hints at a hotel suite. My blood chilled reading partial text lines. "Can't wait to see you again, baby. If James asks, say you're with the legal team. Stadium on Tuesday?" The sign-off was always Leon. It was all I needed to confirm the affair was real. I should have exploded in that moment, but I forced my rage into a tight box. My kids deserved better than a father in blind fury. Instead, I planned. I took half a day off from work, telling my manager there was a family emergency. If Janelle was truly meeting a client or hooking up with Leon, I'd catch them. I traced her phone's GPS mid-lunchtime. My scripts showed her at a cafe near the Hurricanes stadium, far from her firm's usual courthouse routes. Feeling my heart hammer, I drove out, parked discreetly across the street. Sure enough, I spotted Janelle on Leon's arm, both dressed far too casually for a mere professional consult. She laughed, flicking her hair in a flirtatious gesture I hadn't seen in years. Her entire face lit with an excitement that cut me to the core. I'd glimpsed Leon in the sports pages, tall, muscular, with a confident grin that fans adored. Now, seeing him lean in, whisper to her, watch her giggle, I realized my marriage was dangling by a thread. That thread snapped when Leon leaned forward, placed a light kiss on her cheek, and she responded with a radiant smile. Eavesdropping from behind a row of parked cars, I caught him say, "Tonight, same spot. We'll make it special." To which she nodded, eyes bright with anticipation. My entire world crashed, but I kept my composure. Public meltdown would only give them power. Instead, I retreated to plan my revenge, vowing that when I struck, there would be no escape for either Janelle or Leon. Chapter 2. I remember gripping the steering wheel so hard, my knuckles ached, my mind buzzing with the image of Janelle in Leon's arms near the stadium cafe. Snow flurries drifted across the windshield, turning the streetlights into hazy orbs. Part of me wanted to slam the brakes, storm back, yank her away from that muscular bastard. But the calmer, more strategic side of me, the cybersecurity analyst who lived by data, insisted, "Wait, gather more proof. Don't let them spin a story that you're the crazy, jealous husband." So I drove home, a swirl of heartbreak and mounting fury. By the time I unlocked my front door that evening, the house was dark. Ava and Logan were with my parents for an overnight stay, giving me the place to myself, just me and the echo of betrayal. Walking through the hallway, I eyed the framed family photos. Janelle cradling Logan as a newborn, me hoisting Ava on my shoulders at a summer fair. My stomach churned at how real it all felt once, how we were a decent family. Now she's laughing with Leon, star pitcher, behind my back. I tossed my keys on the table, sank onto the couch, phone in hand. I told myself, this is the time to use my cybersecurity skills to dig deeper. Enough hunches and glimpses, I needed undeniable evidence that could demolish any denial she might conjure. The next day, I woke before sunrise, mind too restless to sleep. I slipped into my home office, booted up my laptop, and initiated a series of phone monitoring scripts. I'm well aware it's a legal gray zone accessing Janelle's device logs without her explicit permission. But it's my phone plan, too. I told myself I had a moral right to know if she was destroying our marriage. If she was in bed with another man, humiliating me, risking our kids' stability, I had to see it for myself. The code ran stealthily, replicating her phone's daily backups. Sure enough, messages began populating. Partial text threads, photos, timestamps, location data. My chest tightened as I read. Leon. Meeting at Seaside Lounge is set for 7 p.m. Wear something killer. Janelle. Can't wait. James thinks I have a late client. LOL. I sat back, heart pounding. The cruelty of that short snippet, her using me as a punchline, infuriated me. So it was a running joke for them, how I'd remain clueless at home while they sipped cocktails and did who knew what. Well, not for much longer. Scrolling further, I found references to that hotel near the stadium, talk of the suite's key card, and even a half-joking exchange about how my kids were cute. But I can't babysit them, babe. Leon apparently had zero respect for boundaries. Janelle typed flirty lines. Better keep me warm, it's freezing out. He replied with, I'll do more than that, followed by a wink emoji. My stomach lurched at the sexual undertone. One thread, though, caught my eye. References to Mirage, a downtown club known for its exclusive VIP rooms. Janelle wrote, I'll slip away from James by 8:30. Meet you there. My blood ran cold. The date was 2 nights away. If that was a fresh plan, it gave me time to prepare for a direct observation. Perfect. To confirm Janelle's pattern, I decided to test her court schedule. That afternoon, she insisted she'd be at the courthouse from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. for a case conference. Quietly, I informed my boss I had a personal matter and took an extended lunch. Parking across from her law firm building, I watched from inside my idling SUV. She never emerged from the building. In fact, I saw one of her paralegal colleagues exit, chatting with another lawyer, both of them heading off. No sign of Janelle. Checking my phone's location script, I saw her signal bounce to a cafe near the stadium once again. So I drove out, parked discreetly. Sure enough, there she was, Janelle in a stylish coat, scarf fluttering as she chatted animatedly with Leon in line for coffee. They laughed, and she lightly touched his arm. Something twisted inside me. She looked happy, more vibrant than she'd been in months at home. I swallowed my anger, snapping a couple of photos from a distance on my phone. Then, cursing under my breath, I left before they spotted me. For the next few days, I repeated variations of this tactic. Whenever Janelle said she had work calls or client dinners, I'd track her phone location. She'd be near the stadium, at a fancy lounge, or once at a boutique hotel. This was no one-off fling. They were meeting regularly, presumably hooking up. The rage I felt was tempered by a cold determination. The more evidence I stacked up, the less she could gaslight me or twist the narrative. One evening, though, I got dangerously close. I followed her to a trendy bistro, where I saw them dine. I managed to slip inside after they'd taken a private booth. Hiding behind a pillar, I glimpsed them clinking glasses, leaning in intimately, her hand on his. My heart pounded so loud, I feared they might hear, but a wave of sly cunning replaced my heartbreak. If I can capture them on camera right now, I raised my phone discreetly, snapping a photo. It wasn't perfect grainy, half obscured by a waiter passing, but enough to show Janelle's face lit with affection, Leon's smirk. Satisfied, I ducked out. Let them have their smug dinner. They'd regret it soon enough. Another instance, I risked stepping closer to overhear a snippet of conversation. My vantage was behind a row of potted plants, outside a cafe window. I heard Leon say in a low tone, "You sure your hubby won't suspect anything tonight?" Janelle laughed, replying, "Please, James is clueless. I told him a paralegal meeting, he never questions it now." Leon chuckled, responding with something about keeping you out late. But it's worth it. My jaw clenched at the scorn in her voice. She truly believed me ignorant. Good. Let them think that. The day I confronted them, I'd lay out every piece of evidence, leaving no room for their manipulative lies. I confided in my best friend, Diego, a financial consultant who'd known me since college. Over drinks one late evening, I spilled the broad strokes: the suspected affair, the name Leon, the messages, the stealth photos. Diego's eyes darkened with concern. "James, you sure you don't want to blow this up right now? Kick her out?" I took a breath, swirling my whiskey. If I do that, they might spin it as me being paranoid, or they might shift to a more covert approach. I want them to feel comfortable enough to slip up big. Then I can nuke them legally, morally, especially if Leon tries to fight back. Diego nodded. "Just don't let it destroy you inside, man. You have the kids to think about. If you need help with anything, money, a place to crash, let me know." I gripped his shoulder. "Thanks, but I'll handle it. Once I'm ready, I'll strike decisively." Before this fiasco, I had a passing familiarity with the Boston Hurricanes baseball team. After all, living in Boston, you pick up local sports news. But I'd never followed them closely. Now I pored over articles about Leon Morgan, star pitcher with a string of rumored dalliances. The tabloids hinted at hush money paid to certain ex-lovers, an alleged confrontation with a previous boyfriend. The Hurricanes had a love-hate relationship with him. He was talented, but a PR headache. Reading this, my fury only grew. Some arrogant athlete with an inflated ego, doping on women's admiration, thinking he can waltz in and claim any married woman. Not my wife, I seethed internally. He'll soon learn the cost of crossing me. One snowy Thursday, as I scanned Janelle's phone logs from my hidden scripts, I stumbled across a fresh text exchange. Leon, tomorrow 9 p.m. at Mirage. Dress hot. Janelle, you got it, babe. We'll say I'm working late again. Mirage was a downtown club notorious for exclusive VIP sections. My chest tightened, but also relief. That was the final piece. If she was meeting him there, presumably they'd be dancing, maybe kissing publicly. I could catch them in the act, record it, confront them if needed. I quietly copied the logs, stored them in multiple backups. Then I shut my laptop, face grim. Tomorrow night. This will be the turning point. I weighed my options. Storm in, cause a scene, or gather more allies, more eyes, possibly get a local reporter or a friend with a camera to document everything. The temptation to break Leon's jaw was strong, but a big fight might overshadow the real facts. Instead, I wanted a public humiliation so thorough that neither Janelle nor Leon could claim ignorance. Let them face the shock of the crowd. Let them see I was no naive fool. I resolved I'd text my acquaintance Tess, a nightlife reporter. She might help me slip into the VIP area, capture them on camera. Then, with the evidence stacked, I could proceed with a brutal legal approach, adultery as cause for divorce. Potential lawsuits if Leon harassed me or tried intimidation. That night I tried to sleep, but couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Janelle gazing at Leon with that warm smile she used to reserve for me. So I lay awake, heart pounding with anger and heartbreak, awaiting the next day when I'd set my plan in motion. Chapter 3. The morning after I discovered their plan for Mirage, I woke with iron resolve. The kids were at school, and I had the day to orchestrate my sting operation. First, I texted Tess, the nightlife columnist who owed me a favor after I once helped her trace a cyberstalker. She responded immediately. I'm in. Let's meet for coffee. Plan the ambush. I smirked at her playful, winky face. Tess was always game for an expose, especially one involving a famous athlete. She had sharpened her reporting skills on doping scandals and shady deals in city clubs. If Leon was bold enough to show up at Mirage with a married woman, she'd happily bring the receipts. That afternoon, I took the train into the city, meeting Tess at a cozy cafe near her station. She sipped a latte, eyes gleaming with anticipation. So, you're sure they'll be there at 9 p.m.? She asked. I nodded, showing her screenshots of Janelle's phone messages. She whistled. Damn! They're not even trying to hide it. Because Janelle thinks I'm clueless, I said, bitterness creeping into my voice, or that I wouldn't dare confront them. But tonight, I want them caught on camera, dancing, maybe making out in the VIP area. Once we have that footage, I can blow up both their narratives. Tess leaned forward. You want me to record for my column? Because if I publish it, Leon's sponsors will freak, especially with a homewrecker athlete angle. I exhaled slowly. Yes. But let me see the final piece before it goes public. My priority is divorce and possibly a suit against Leon for alienation of affection and archaic law in some states. But it might still hold water here. Tess smirked. Alienation? That'll be big. I'll keep your personal angle discreet. But if you want them humiliated publicly, I can do that. I stared at my coffee, swirling the foam. I want them to face real consequences. Janelle might cry, victim, later. But she's the one lying to me, to our kids. I'm done being Mr. Nice. Tess tapped the table. Then let's do it. I'll slip in with a press pass, filming covertly. You can position yourself for the perfect reveal. So dramatic. Fate added an odd twist. It was barely a week after Valentine's Day. Janelle, likely out of guilt, had suggested a delayed romantic dinner for us on the very night she planned to meet Leon at Mirage. The nerve. She texted me that morning. "We missed Valentine's. Let's do a makeup dinner at that new seafood spot tomorrow. I can't stay late, though." She feigned enthusiasm, probably figuring dinner with me ended by 8 p.m. would give her enough time to slip away for the 9 p.m. rendezvous with Leon. I played along, responding, "Sounds lovely, let's do it." Meanwhile, the cynic in me was screaming at her bold duplicity. But this was perfect. She was handing me a prime setup. I'd let her enjoy a half-baked dinner with me, watch her check her phone constantly, then see her bail out with a flimsy excuse, after which I'd follow her to Mirage and catch the big show. The next evening, I watched Janelle emerge from the bedroom in a slinky, form-fitting black dress that I'd never seen before. My chest tightened. She looked stunning. Hair done in soft waves, high heels that accentuated her legs. If we were truly going for a Valentine's makeup dinner, I'd be thrilled at her effort, except I knew it wasn't for me. She was dressing for Leon. She offered a tight smile. "You ready?" she asked, grabbing a small clutch purse. I nodded, refusing to let her sense my building anger. Let her think she's fooling me. Just a little longer. We drove to the chic seafood restaurant downtown. The ambiance was romantic, soft lighting, couples murmuring sweet nothings. But between us, tension crackled. She scrolled her phone under the table repeatedly. I pretended not to notice, swirling my clam chowder with forced nonchalance. My appetite was nil, but I had to keep up the facade. She took tiny bites of her lobster ravioli, mostly pushing it around, glancing at the clock. I asked mild questions about her day, to which she gave terse answers, eyes never quite meeting mine. Busy, stressful, lots of documents. I forced small talk about the kids' schedule. She faked interest, then returned to her phone. By 8:15 p.m., she was practically vibrating with impatience. Her phone buzzed at least 3 times. She excused herself to the restroom. Within a minute, I glimpsed her outside the front windows, phone to her ear, speaking in hushed tones, probably confirming with Leon that she'd arrive soon. My heart twisted. Such brazen disrespect. But I sipped water calmly, biding time. She returned, claiming, "I just got an urgent text from the firm. Something about new evidence for a client. I'm so sorry, James, but I have to run after we settle the bill." She tried to look apologetic. Right at 8:30, she pressed me, "Could you pay? I'll owe you the next dinner. I truly hate leaving like this." She batted her lashes, giving a half-hearted attempt at remorse. I shrugged, feigning acceptance. "Sure, duty calls, right?" She exhaled relief, leaning in to peck my cheek. "Thank you for understanding," she cooed, grabbing her coat. "We'll do a proper date soon." Lies, I thought. But I nodded, letting her walk out the door. Moments later, I paid the bill, jammed a tip for the waiter, and hurried out. My phone showed her location beelining for downtown. Mirage. I hopped into my car, adrenaline spiking. Following her discreetly, I ensured a few cars separated us. She parked in a multi-story garage near the nightclubs. I parked 2 levels down, rushed up the stairs in time to see her meeting Haley, the so-called friend. The two of them looked giddy, reapplying lipstick, adjusting hair. Haley laughed. "Leon's already texting. Let's get inside, girl." My anger flared at their conspiratorial giggles. They strutted off toward a neon-lit building that read, Mirage. The bouncer at the velvet rope recognized Haley, letting them in with no wait. Perfect. I pulled out my phone, texting Tess. "They've arrived. I'm heading in now." Tess responded, "Got the camera ready, let's do it." Music thumped, bass vibrating the walls. Colored lights pulsed over a packed dance floor. I spotted Tess at the bar, pretending to sip a cocktail. She flashed me a thumbs up. I navigated the crowd, trying not to lose sight of Janelle and Haley. Soon I saw them at a small table near the VIP zone, scanning the entrance. Then, Leon arrived wearing a flashy jacket, exuding confidence. My blood boiled seeing Janelle's face light up like a schoolgirl. She hopped to her feet, embracing him as if they were the only two in the world. I hovered behind a corner, heart hammering. Leon guided them past a velvet rope into the VIP lounge. Tess discreetly followed, holding a camera disguised as a phone. I gave her a subtle nod. This was it. From my vantage by a tinted glass partition, I saw them swirl onto the dance floor in a roped-off area. The music slowed at one point, transitioning to a sensual R&B track. Janelle draped her arms around Leon's neck, pressed her body against his. He whispered something in her ear. She tossed back her head, laughing. My chest constricted with a mix of heartbreak and fury. That's how we used to dance at our wedding. Tess circled the perimeter, capturing video. The strobe lights illuminated Janelle's face, flushed with excitement as Leon's hands roamed her hips. My jaw locked, but I forced myself not to intervene. The bigger reveal was still to come. Somewhere near the end of that set, they stepped off the floor, heading to a plush VIP booth. Leon signaled for champagne, presumably celebrating their secret romance. Haley high-fived Janelle, cackling about ditching your boring husband. I inhaled a sharp breath. Time. I texted Tess. "I'm moving in, film from behind." She replied instantly, "Got it." I straightened my shoulders, fists clenched. The humiliation would be public, but that was the point. Let them see me. Let them squirm. Let the crowd witness Janelle's disloyalty. This was the moment I'd blow their facade wide open. Chapter 4. The neon pulse of Mirage's interior painted everything in shifting purples and blues. My adrenaline soared, senses keener than ever. Leon and Janelle lounged in a VIP booth, her head leaning on his shoulder. She wore that damn black cocktail dress I'd admired at dinner, a dress she'd claimed was for work. Haley sat across from them, sipping a fruity cocktail, swirling a phone in her hand as if texting. I navigated the throng of dancers, edging closer to the roped-off VIP area. The bouncer posted there gave me a suspicious look. Usually you need a band or a reservation. But just then, Tess approached, flashed some form of press credentials, distracting the bouncer with a question about covering a VIP event. While he turned to respond, I slipped under the rope into the lounge. Up close, the sting of betrayal was nearly unbearable. Janelle had one hand on Leon's chest, leaning in to whisper. He smirked, curling an arm around her waist. She looked enthralled, face flushed with desire. The same expression she used to have for me in our honeymoon phase. "Damn her!" I seethed quietly. Haley noticed me first, eyes widening. She nudged Janelle, but too late. I was 3 steps away, phone camera discreetly raised, capturing their cozy posture. Janelle's gaze snapped to me, color draining from her cheeks. Leon jolted upright, confusion contorting into annoyance. Haley jumped up, blocking my path. "James, what are you doing here? This is private." She tried to shield Janelle from my phone lens. But behind her, Tess angled to the side, still filming. The music blasted, but a few onlookers sensed drama, peering curiously. I locked eyes with Janelle. She stammered, I can explain." Leon rose, stepping between us, towering over me. "Back off, buddy," he said, voice dripping with arrogance. "You're not welcome." I squared my shoulders. "You sure about that? My wife's here, buddy." The word dripped with contempt. Sensing confrontation, the DJ ironically changed to a slow, sultry track, like a mocking highlight to the tension. Janelle trembled. Leon glared at me, fists flexing as if daring me to escalate physically. My heart pounded with an urge to punch him, but I kept it in check. I want them publicly exposed, not to cause a brawl that gets me arrested. Janelle's voice shook. James, you're misunderstanding. This is just a friend. We were... Friend? I spat, voice thick with rage. That's your line? I have the texts, the photos, everything. I half-turned to the small crowd that had gathered. She's my wife, sneaking around with Leon Morgan, the so-called baseball star. Let's see if the tabloids like this angle. Leon grabbed Janelle's wrist, trying to pull her behind him. You have no idea who you're messing with, he growled at me. The overhead lights flickered, the music's bass intensifying. I held my ground, phone lens pointed at him. Tess hovered near the rope, capturing every second, providing the perfect vantage. He hissed, "Put that camera away!" Or what? I snapped. You'll break into my house next time? You'll assault me? If you're so tough, do it. Then watch your career vanish. Tess stepped forward, phone up. The red recording icon glowed. Leon Morgan, can you confirm you're dating a married paralegal named Janelle? She said loudly. Is that your new mistress after your last scandal? Gasps rippled. A handful of people recognized Leon, whispering in shock. Leon's face blanched. Janelle looked mortified, tears gathering. Haley tried pulling Janelle away, but the rope of onlookers had grown. The bouncer even stepped closer, uncertain whether to intervene. The entire lounge seemed transfixed, the music continuing in an ironic, romantic slow jam. At that moment, Janelle broke, tears spilling. She jerked away from Leon, stammering, "Oh my God, James, I'm sorry." But Leon clamped her arm. "We're leaving," he snarled, trying to bulldoze past me. I sidestepped, letting them pass if they wanted. The damage was done. Cameras from random clubgoers came out. People recognized Leon, filming. Janelle and Leon shoved through the crowd, hands up to block the phones. Haley scurried after them. I followed at a distance, capturing the entire humiliating scramble. Outside the club, the cold air hit like a shock. They hurried down the sidewalk, paparazzi-like folks trailing. Leon barked curses at them, shielding Janelle with his coat. I didn't approach further. My objective was complete. I had the public meltdown, the explicit footage, the entire lounge as witnesses. They could no longer pretend innocence. Janelle's secret fling was out in the open. Tess joined me, breath puffing white in the chilly night. "Jesus, that was intense," she said, adrenaline bright in her eyes. She lifted her phone. "I got every angle, enough to blow them up big." My heartbeat slowed as the anger receded, replaced by a hollow sense of heartbreak. "Send me the raw files. Then you can do your story. I just need everything for my lawyer." Driving home, I found my hands trembling on the wheel. The image of Janelle's tearful face haunted me. She'd chosen to humiliate me, lie to me, toy with my trust. Some part of me had hoped she'd show remorse or some sign of conflict. Instead, she'd brazenly kept hooking up with Leon, mocking me behind my back. When I got home, I saw the framed wedding photo on the hallway shelf. My chest erupted with rage. I grabbed it, flung it across the room. The glass shattered with a satisfying crash. Then I seized the wedding album from the bookshelf, ripping pages. A savage ache tore through me, but I refused to break down sobbing. I couldn't let my heartbreak overshadow the mission. I'd use this fury to push forward with a brutal divorce, protect my kids, and crush Leon's arrogance. In the quiet, I typed a single message to Janelle's phone. "You're done." Then I turned it off, ignoring any reply. At 2 a.m., half dozing on the couch, my phone buzzed. A text from Janelle. "James, I'm sorry. Let's talk. This isn't what it seems." I gave a hollow laugh. The footage was unambiguous, so "not what it seems" was laughable. Another text arrived. "I can't come home tonight. I'm staying with Haley. Kids, what? Your parents, right? The nerve. She was more worried about logistics than my emotional meltdown. I set the phone face down, determined to answer her in the only language she'd understand: legal retribution. By dawn, I'd be on the phone with my attorney friend, Diego, forging the path to end this sham of a marriage. Let Janelle and Leon face the unstoppable consequences. Chapter 5. The morning after that explosive confrontation at Mirage, James awoke with a bitter sense of triumph and heartbreak swirling through him. He stared at the rumpled sheets on Janelle's side of the bed, now cold, empty, and meaningless. In the distance, a February wind rattled the window. The house was quiet, save for the hum of the heater. He glanced at his phone, half expecting a deluge of messages from Janelle. But there were only a couple of frantic voicemails from her recorded in the small hours. "James, please, let's talk. Don't do anything rash. I'm so sorry you saw all that. It wasn't I, just call me." He deleted them without listening fully. "You made your bed with Leon," he thought grimly. "Now lie in it." His children, Ava and Logan, had slept at his parents' house again. He wanted them spared from any late-night meltdown Janelle might attempt. The mental picture of Janelle clinging to Leon, ignoring the vows she once made, spiked a wave of fury so sharp that for a moment he could hardly breathe. Yet he forced himself to remain calm, methodical. He was done letting raw emotion steer him. This was war, and he had the upper hand with evidence. He needed to keep that advantage. By 8 a.m., James was on the phone with Diego, his longtime friend and an aggressive attorney. Diego sounded appropriately outraged when James recounted the club scene. "Christ, James, she's humiliating you publicly with this guy, and he's a big-name athlete?" "Yes," James said, pacing the living room. "I want to bury them legally speaking. I have footage from inside the club, her blatant lies, and text logs I extracted from her phone. Enough to prove adultery beyond doubt." Diego's tone was coldly satisfied. "That's all we need for a divorce on grounds of infidelity, plus potential suits against Leon for alienation of affection, if you want to push it. In some states, that law can still cause him major trouble, especially if it affects his brand." James paused at the mention of brand. Yes, Leon's sponsors wouldn't want him entangled in a public affairs scandal. "I do want that. Let's go scorched earth. He came after my wife. Disrespected me in my own city. He deserves the consequences." Diego hummed. "You'll also want to secure child custody. That means proving Janelle's unfit or at least irresponsible if she prioritizes secret liaisons over the kids. The videos from last night, plus any proof she left them behind for her fling, helps." James exhaled, heart pounding. "Yes, absolutely. I want full custody. She can see them if the courts allow, but no way she's taking them away after all this betrayal." Diego agreed. "We'll draft the divorce filing today. I'll need the raw footage from your friend. Then we serve Janelle. She can't ignore it, especially once it hits the press." A flicker of savage satisfaction ran through James. He ended the call with renewed resolve. Time to put it all in motion. Around noon, James drove to pick up Ava and Logan from his parents' place. His mother greeted him at the door, concern etched on her face. "James, sweetie, how are you holding up? The kids sense something's wrong." He forced a tight smile, hugging her. "I'm managing. I need them home with me now. Janelle, she won't be around for a while." His mother's eyes clouded. She suspected the marriage was in crisis, but he'd spared her the scandalous details. "All right, but be gentle. They miss you both." Ava bounded out, holding a drawing of a rainbow with Mommy and Daddy stick figures under it. Logan followed, clutching a toy dinosaur. James knelt, letting them hug him. Their innocence tore at his heart. They don't deserve this chaos. On the drive back, they asked the usual questions. "Where's Mommy? Why isn't she picking us up?" James replied softly that Mommy's busy with work, feeling a stab of guilt. He wasn't ready to dump the ugly truth on them. One day, maybe, but not now. At home, the kids settled in the living room watching cartoons. James rummaged in the kitchen, mind spinning with the next steps. Janelle's messages kept popping up on his phone. "Please, James, let me see the kids. Can we talk? I'm so sorry." He clenched his jaw, ignoring her pleas. Talk? After you spent months lying? After that public display with Leon? Instead, he blocked her number for the night, not wanting a meltdown while the kids were around. He prepared a simple lunch, sandwiches and fruit, then joined Ava and Logan, trying to project calm. They deserved normalcy. If Janelle wanted to see them, she'd soon have to deal with lawyers and scheduled visits, not random drop-ins. That evening, James's phone buzzed with an unknown number. He answered cautiously, and an arrogant male voice greeted him. "So you must be Janelle's hubby, huh?" James's blood chilled. "Leon?" A chuckle. "Man, I gotta say, last night was quite the show. You think you can turn me into some tabloid villain? That's cute." He sounded infuriatingly smug, as though the humiliation at the club meant nothing. James forced a calm tone. "You broke up a family, asshole. Don't expect me to go easy on you." Leon scoffed. "She came willingly. Don't blame me for your lack of performance. People have free will. So drop the tough act. It won't work." James gripped the phone. "Go near my kids or come near my house and you'll regret it. I promise you that." Leon's voice turned cold. "Tough talk. Let's see if you back it up in court. My lawyers are on standby if you try anything. And remember, I'm the star pitcher. My fans love me. Sponsors love me. You're just some nobody with a mundane job." Rage flared, but James cut the call. "He wants to provoke me into a rash move." Not happening. Instead, he dialed Diego, relaying the threat. Diego just chuckled darkly. "Perfect. Let him posture. We'll use every line he utters to show he's harassing you." Days passed in a surreal blur. The kids asked more frequently about Janelle. "When's Mommy coming home?" "She missed my soccer practice." James gently repeated that Mommy had big grown-up issues. He let them video call her once, supervised by him to confirm she was safe. Janelle looked haggard on the screen, teary-eyed, telling Ava she loved her, telling Logan she missed him. A pang hit James's chest, but he hardened himself. The betrayal overshadowed any pity. After the call, Janelle texted him, "You can't keep them from me forever. I messed up, but they're still my kids." He responded with a curt, "Our lawyer will arrange visitation. Don't push me." It stung to watch the children process the new normal. Their mother was absent, their father simmering with tension. But James persevered, reading them bedtime stories, ensuring they felt secure in his presence. The best he could do was maintain stability until the divorce and custody battles resolved. A week post-nightclub fiasco, Diego finalized the divorce papers, citing adultery, moral abandonment, and emotional harm. He also drafted a civil complaint against Leon for alienation of affection and intentional infliction of emotional distress. James signed with a shaky sense of grim satisfaction. Diego explained, "Leon might ignore it at first, but once he sees the potential financial damages, he'll have to respond. Especially if he's losing sponsor deals from the scandal." "Good," James muttered. "He can watch his empire crumble like he made my marriage crumble." Diego patted his shoulder. "Focus on the kids, keep your evidence organized, and let me handle the courtroom warfare." Meanwhile, Tess had pitched the story to her editor. "Famous pitcher Entangled with married paralegal scandal at VIP club. The editor drooled over the angles. The hypocrisy. The star athlete's brazen disrespect for a marriage. Tess insisted she keep James's name relatively subdued to protect the children. The piece eventually ran with partial screenshots. Leon's face, Janelle's silhouette. Headlines spread across local tabloids. Hurricanes pitcher Leon Morgan's steamy affair exposed. Public reaction was swift. Fans bombarded Leon's social media with betrayal accusations. Some defenders called it a private matter, but the tide turned negative when footage from Mirage surfaced Leon and Janelle dancing intimately, then stumbling away after James's confrontation. The meltdown was trending in sports gossip forums. Within days, Janelle's workplace discovered the scandal. Her law firm frowned on staffers bringing negative publicity. She was quietly suspended. Devastated, Janelle left tearful voicemails for James, claiming she was losing everything, that Leon was being cold to her after the press hammered him. She sounded panicked, as if her new dream romance was crumbling now that the spotlight cast them as villains. James listened to half of one voicemail. "James, I'm sorry. I messed up. Leon's blaming me for the leak he says I told you about Mirage. I didn't, please, we need to talk." Then he deleted it, shutting out her pleas. She'd chosen Leon over their marriage. Now she reaped the consequences. Late one night as the kids slept, James poured himself a stiff drink and reviewed the mounting evidence for the upcoming legal battles. He had a full timeline of Janelle's lies. Text logs, photos, videos from the club meltdown, even some side notes from Tess about Leon's prior alleged affairs. The phone beeped. A new message from an unknown number. Possibly more threats from Leon? He inhaled, bracing for drama. The message read, "You think you can break me? I'll bury you in countersuits. Your wife wanted me. Deal with it." No signature. But James knew it was Leon. The arrogance boiled his blood, but he remained strategic. He screenshotted everything, forwarding it to Diego. Another chunk of evidence showing Leon's harassment. James set the phone down, swallowing the last of his whiskey. He gazed at the family photo on the mantel, Ava and Logan's bright smiles. "I'll protect you," he vowed silently. "I'll ensure your mother and that bastard can't ruin your life." With that final thought, he extinguished the lamp, letting the house settle into hush. Tomorrow, the storm raged on. But at least he was no longer in the dark. He was the one controlling the narrative now. Chapter 6. It was 2 days after James filed for divorce, and the tension in the air was almost tangible. The kids were still under James's sole care. Janelle had texted repeatedly about coming to pick up some clothes and see the kids. James refused, telling her it'd be arranged through attorneys if needed. Meanwhile, Leon sent mocking messages about how he'd take good care of Janelle. In short, a swirling mess of threats and pleas. Then, at nearly 2 a.m. one night, Janelle arrived at the house anyway, despite James's warnings. He was awakened by a scraping noise at the front door, the jingle of keys. He yanked on sweatpants, heart thudding, stepping into the hallway. The kids were sleeping upstairs. The last thing he wanted was a confrontation that woke them. The door creaked open. Janelle stumbled in, tear-streaked face, eyes red. She froze when she saw James standing in the dim living room lamp. James. I just wanted my stuff," she whispered, voice shaky. He kept his tone cold. "You shouldn't be here at this hour. We have an arrangement. Call my lawyer if you need items." She swallowed, stepping forward timidly. "I know, but Leon and I had a fight. He kicked me out of his condo. I got nowhere else to go." A twisted pang of pity surfaced, but James forced it down. "She's the reason for this fiasco." He refused to show softness. "That's not my problem anymore." Janelle set her purse down, eyes brimming with tears. He's not who I thought he was. He's been cruel, using me for show. I realized I messed up, James. I want to come home. James snorted bitterly. You want to come home? After publicly humiliating me with your star pitcher lover? After you lied to my face and neglected our kids, does that ring any bell? She broke into sobs, hands trembling. I know. It was stupid. I fell for the excitement, the attention. I never meant to ruin us, he scoffed. You didn't just ruin us. You rubbed it in my face. That nightclub fiasco was all you, flaunting your new fling. Sorry, but you can't waltz back like nothing happened. Her tears rolled down her cheeks, smearing mascara. I'm done with him, I swear. Please let me stay just for tonight. I have nowhere else. James stared, a swirl of fury and heartbreak. Part of him wanted to slam the door in her face. Another part recalled she was still the mother of his children, homeless at 2 a.m. Take the couch, he said stiffly. But in the morning, you're out. And do not wake the kids. Morning came, and the children bounded downstairs at 7 a.m., eyes going wide seeing Janelle asleep on the couch. They squealed, Mommy, rushing to hug her. She hugged them back, tears in her eyes, whispering apologies. James stood by, arms crossed. He gave them a few moments, then firmly told the kids to get ready for school. He'd drive them soon. Janelle attempted to follow them upstairs, but James blocked her path. She glanced at him, face crumpling. James, I just want to help them get dressed. He shook his head. No. You lost that right when you put your fling above them. Go gather your clothes if you want, then leave. His voice held no room for argument. She bowed her head, quietly trudging up to the master bedroom. James escorted the kids to the kitchen, making them a quick breakfast, ignoring their innocent questions about why Mommy slept on the couch. Soon, Janelle descended with a duffel bag, expression bleak. She murmured a choked goodbye to Ava and Logan, then glanced at James. We'll talk, she whispered, heading out. Though James remained stoic for the kids, inside he was roiling with conflict. Janelle's heartbreak and pleas gnawed at him, but the betrayal overshadowed any sympathy. After dropping the children at school, he found his mind drifting to the possibility that she might truly regret her fling with Leon. Could she be sincere about ending it? Then he recalled the hateful texts Leon had sent, the mocking tone. No, he told himself, she destroyed my trust. We're beyond repair. He returned home, noticing the rumpled couch sheets, the leftover trace of Janelle's perfume. A swirl of anger and sadness welled up. He forced himself to push it aside, emailing Diego about the new development, Janelle's meltdown, and claim she'd ended it with Leon. Diego responded swiftly, Don't let her manipulations derail the case. Keep proceeding with the divorce. She can apologize all she wants, but the damage is done. James stared at that text for a long time, nodding slowly. Later that afternoon, as James organized custody arguments, his phone rang Leon's number. He considered ignoring it, but something in him wanted to see what the jerk had to say now. He answered. Yes? Leon's voice was thick with anger. Your wife left me, says it's over. You must be real proud, right? James exhaled. I don't give a damn about your relationship. You both made your choices. It's done. A low growl. You think this changes anything? I'm not paying a dime if you try that alienation lawsuit. I'll fight it in court, and I'll drag your name through the mud. James kept calm. I have evidence of your affair, your texts, your threats. Plus you broke into my property, assaulted me. Go ahead, drag me wherever you want. The courts will side with me. Leon sputtered, cursing. You're messing with the wrong guy. My fans love me, my sponsors. James cut him off, voice biting. Your sponsors are probably rethinking that after you assaulted a homeowner and seduced a married paralegal. Good luck rebuilding your image. We're done. He hung up, heart pounding. 2 nights later, events escalated more violently than James had anticipated. He'd put the kids to bed early, thankfully. They had a weekend sleepover scheduled at his parents' place again. The house was quiet. James alone with his laptop, reviewing more data for the impending divorce hearing. Close to midnight, he heard a faint scratching at the back door. Alarmed, he shut his laptop, creeping to the kitchen. The motion sensor light flipped on, revealing a figure trying to force the lock. James's adrenaline spiked. Leon! He grabbed his phone, prepared to dial 911, but decided to see if the intruder was truly who he suspected. A loud crash as the glass shattered. James cursed, stepping back, yanking open a drawer for a weapon. His hand found the heavy cast-iron skillet he sometimes used for weekend breakfasts. Not an elegant choice, but lethal enough in close quarters. The door swung inward, the intruder stumbling in. A harsh male voice hissed, "Where are you, you coward?" James recognized that voice. Leon, indeed, reeking of alcohol, face twisted with rage. He spotted James, sneering. "You tried to ruin me, you piece of shit! Now, you pay!" Leon lunged, swinging a wild punch. James sidestepped, heart pounding. The blow grazed his shoulder, still enough to sting. Leon's breath reeked of booze, his eyes glassy with anger. James raised the skillet. "Back off, man! I'll call the cops!" Leon just bared his teeth, launching another swing. James deflected with the skillet, smacking Leon's forearm. The clank of metal against flesh reverberated. Leon cursed, stepping back but then charged again. James swung the skillet in a tight arc, connecting with Leon's ribs. The star pitcher toppled onto the kitchen floor, gasping in pain. For a split second, James felt a savage satisfaction. He's not so mighty now. But Leon, fueled by rage, struggled up, lunging once more. James hammered the skillet down on his shoulder, sending him sprawling. Leon groaned, chest heaving, cursing. A neighbor must have heard the commotion because sirens wailed in the distance. Leon roared, "You'll regret this!" and tried to rise. James kicked away a broken beer bottle near Leon's reach, keeping the skillet raised. He panted, adrenaline flooding his veins, determined not to yield. Moments later, police stormed in, guns drawn. They saw James with the skillet, Leon battered, the broken door behind him. "Drop the pan!" one officer shouted. James complied, hands up, stepping back. Another officer tackled Leon, who moaned, "He attacked me with a weapon!" James pointed to the smashed door. "He broke in! He attacked me first!" The cops quickly assessed the scene, realized the forced entry, the battered lock, the shattered glass. They cuffed Leon, ignoring his slurred protests. One officer asked James if he was hurt, to which he replied, "Just bruises. I'm okay." Leon was escorted out, half limping, cursing at the top of his lungs about false charges and "I'll sue you all." The officer read him his rights, loading him into a squad car. James stood on the porch in the chilly air, heart pounding, watching the swirling red and blue lights paint the snow in frantic colors. A couple neighbors peered from windows, concerned or curious. One detective, a short woman with a serious expression, took James's statement. "He forced entry, assaulted me. I defended myself with the skillet." She nodded, writing notes. "Looks like a clear case of self-defense. We'll process him for B&E, assault, vandalism. You'll need to come down to the station for a formal statement tomorrow, okay?" James nodded, hugging himself against the cold. Despite the tension, a sense of triumph filled him. Leon just delivered a massive blow to his own case. He literally broke into my home. Perfect. The next day, Local news cameras captured Leon being led from the hospital in handcuffs. Apparently, he had a fractured rib and some bruising from the skillet. Headlines read, "Baseball star arrested after breaking into married lover's home." The story soared through sports tabloids and gossip sites. James's phone buzzed non-stop with alerts, messages from Tess, from concerned acquaintances. One clip showed Leon in a stretcher, jaw swollen, cursing the camera. Another headline, "Pitchers brawl, cheating scandal erupts into assault." Public sympathy swiftly tilted in James's favor. Leon's sponsor, a major shoe brand, announced suspension of his endorsement contract pending investigation. The Hurricanes baseball team issued a statement condemning violent behavior. The meltdown of Leon's career was in full swing. Janelle, ironically, tried calling James again, but he blocked her. He had no interest in hearing her sob story. Let her see that Leon's meltdown was her doing. Late that night, James sipped a beer in the quiet living room, the house locked securely. Sirens no longer blared, the kids were safe with his parents, and Leon was locked up awaiting arraignment. Despite the bruises on James's arm, he felt more relief than pain. He'd defended his home, and soon, with the legal onslaught, he'd finalize the end of this cursed marriage. The next steps: formal charges, savage divorce proceedings, and reclaiming a stable life for Ava and Logan. Chapter 7. In the days following Leon's brazen break-in and arrest, James felt an odd mixture of relief and lingering fury. The battered back door was boarded up awaiting a proper replacement, while fresh snow piled outside. The kids, Ava and Logan, were still staying with James's parents for safety. He refused to chance another ambush from Leon's enraged fans or associates. The hush of the house pressed in on him, every creak amplified by the winter cold. Yet through the swirl of tension, James recognized a shift in public perception. If the fiasco at Mirage had ignited gossip about Leon's affair, his violent home invasion sealed the star pitcher's reputation as a reckless menace. News outlets ran headlines like, "Pitching star arrested for assault on cheated husband," with tabloids feasting on every sensational detail. James's phone buzzed incessantly. Reporters fishing for a quote, social media pings, old acquaintances stunned by the scandal. He kept silent, letting Tess and his lawyer, Diego, handle any statements. Still, the confrontation left James rattled. He'd never been a violent man, but that night, he'd defended his home with a cast-iron skillet. The memory of the impact and the raw rage that fueled him haunted him. He tried to calm his mind by focusing on the next steps, finalizing custody, pushing the divorce forward, and ensuring Leon faced legal repercussions for assault and break-in. Soon after, James received a call from the local precinct. Leon, having spent a few days under observation at the hospital for a cracked rib and bruising, was being formally charged with breaking and entering, assault, and vandalism. A detective invited James to come down for an additional statement, which he readily provided. The detective, a tall, non-nonsense woman named Alvarez, took meticulous notes. She assured James that Leon's violent incursion wouldn't be minimized even if he tried to flex his celebrity status. "Truth is," Alvarez said, flipping through pictures of the broken door, "he was extremely lucky you didn't do more damage. You had every right to fear for your life." James nodded, the memory still fresh. "He was drunk, out of control. If I didn't defend myself, who knows what might have happened." Alvarez gave a curt nod. "We've got witness statements from neighbors who heard him yelling threats. Combined with your physical evidence, it's an open and shut case." She paused, glancing up. "Leon's lawyers might try to spin it, but the facts are clear." James exhaled. "I appreciate your thoroughness." She tapped the folder. "We do our jobs. Just stay safe. If you suspect any retaliation from Leon's fans or associates, call us immediately." News of the arrest catapulted the scandal further. The Boston Hurricanes baseball organization swiftly announced Leon's indefinite suspension, citing conduct detrimental to the team. Sponsors distanced themselves or publicly froze contracts. Social media turned savage. Some fans were outraged at Leon for shattering the family-friendly image. Others blamed Janelle for seducing him. Rumors flew of potential contract termination. For James, that spelled success. Leon's arrogance had found a well-deserved downfall. One morning, James woke to a barrage of texts from Diego. Team just released a statement. They might cut Leon entirely if charges stick. Your alienation of affection suit is looking stronger by the minute. James stared at the messages with a grim sense of justice. If Leon lost his multi-million-dollar contract, that was on him, not on James. Meanwhile, Janelle spiraled. Shortly after the break-in fiasco, she'd tried to contact James, claiming she wanted to see the kids to explain everything. But under Diego's advice, James refused direct contact. He'd let the lawyers sort out supervised visitation if needed. Freed from Leon's illusion, since Leon was busy fighting legal storms, Janelle found herself alone. Her law firm suspended her pending an internal review, citing unprofessional behavior and negative publicity. Without Leon's star power to cling to, she had nowhere to turn except her old circle of acquaintances, many of whom shunned her for the scandal. A few nights later, she somehow got James's new number, he'd changed after repeated harassment, and left a desperate voicemail. James, I'm losing everything. Leon's ignoring me. His lawyer threatened me. My firm might fire me, and I can't pay rent. Please, for the kids' sake, can we talk? I still love you. I was just lost. James felt a twinge of pity reading the transcript. But after all the betrayal, the lies, the humiliations, pity was overshadowed by cold resolve. She'd chosen Leon, brushed off their family for cheap thrills. Now that Leon's world was collapsing, she wanted a soft landing. Not going to happen. Diego wasted no time filing James's divorce petition with a punchy cause: adultery, moral turpitude, endangerment of children's welfare. James had prepared reams of evidence texts, photos, videos from Mirage, plus the break-in fiasco. The kids were safe with James, so he demanded full custody, citing Janelle's reckless behavior and her involvement with a violent partner. The court set a hearing date for custody arrangements. James expected Janelle might try to claim partial custody or pivot to tears and regret. But the evidence was damning. When the papers were officially served to Janelle at her friend's condo, she supposedly had an emotional breakdown, as Haley told some mutual acquaintance. James heard about it secondhand and felt no sympathy. She brought this upon herself. Simultaneously, Diego filed the alienation of affection lawsuit against Leon. Although such suits were somewhat old-fashioned and not recognized in every state, Massachusetts' stance on it was murky enough that a creative lawyer like Diego could push it forward. At the very least, it sent a message. James was prepared to hold Leon financially accountable for seducing his wife and wrecking their marriage. This might also deter Leon from continuing harassment or countersuits. He had too much to lose if James proved he'd intentionally sabotaged their marital harmony. Leon's lawyer responded with a sneering letter, calling it frivolous. But given Leon's battered image, they negotiated behind the scenes. James remained unmoved. If they wanted to avoid a bigger scandal, they could settle. Otherwise, James was fine letting the courts drag Leon's name through more mud. Tess continued to churn out articles. One piece spotlighted the home invasion, titled, "From Home Runs to Breaking and Entering, the Leon Morgan Downfall." She described how the once celebrated pitcher turned into a cautionary tale of arrogance and moral decay. Though she spared James's full identity for the kids' sake, she made it clear: The married woman was no helpless victim but an active participant, betraying her spouse. Public sympathy leaned heavily toward James, the cuckolded but cunning husband who fought back. Local talk shows debated the fiasco. Some labeled James a hero for standing up to a celebrity jerk. Others said it was a messy affair that should stay private. But Leon's meltdown was too sensational to ignore, especially after the cast-iron skillet detail leaked. Memes appeared online joking about skillet justice. Amid the chaos, James shielded Ava and Logan from tabloids. They returned to the family home now with a newly replaced back door and resumed normal routines. School drop-offs, weekend cartoons, visits to James's parents. Janelle was barred from unscheduled appearances. The court's temporary order insisted on official channels for child contact. Ava, perceptive at 6, occasionally asked, "Daddy, is Mommy still with that baseball man?" James would gently deflect. "Mommy's dealing with grown-up problems, honey. We'll see how it goes." Logan just wanted his mom back, though he sensed tension whenever her name arose. It tore at James's heart, but he refused to let them see him broken or furious. They needed stability and reassurance that their father was steadfast. Leon faced a preliminary hearing for the assault and break-in charges. James didn't need to attend, but kept tabs on the proceedings. The judge placed Leon on strict bail conditions, no contact with James, no approaching the family home, a curfew, and mandatory anger management sessions. The Hurricanes extended his suspension. Sponsors began officially pulling out. The rumor was Leon stood to lose millions in canceled endorsements. Diego cackled with glee at each new headline, urging James to push for a large settlement in the alienation case. James hesitated only a moment before agreeing. Leon had barged into his life, wrecked his marriage, and tried to intimidate him. This was payback. One evening, after a day of depositions and lawyerly back and forth, James and Diego grabbed drinks at a quiet bar. Diego raised his glass. "Here's to your unstoppable case. You'll walk away with the kids, the house, and possibly a chunk of Leon's fortune." James clinked glasses, sipping a stiff bourbon. "I'm not in it just for money. I want him to face consequences, to realize you can't trample on someone's marriage and get off free." Diego nodded. "He's definitely facing them. The DA has him on the assault charge, plus your civil lawsuit. Janelle's meltdown only cements your custody. She's staying at some friend's place, or cheap motel, from what I hear." James stared at the amber liquid. "I used to love her," he muttered. "Now I feel nothing. Maybe pity. She chose fame, excitement, and got burned. But I can't help remembering we have kids. One day, they'll ask me why it all ended." Diego placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You'll tell them the truth in a gentle way. That you tried, but she walked away. They'll see who stood by them. Don't beat yourself up." James inhaled, nodded. "I have to stay strong for them and for myself." Chapter 8. A few days after Leon's preliminary hearing, James returned from a grocery run with Ava and Logan in tow. He pulled into the driveway, the winter sun casting long shadows across the snow. As they stepped out, he froze. Janelle stood on the front porch, hugging herself for warmth, eyes reed-rimmed. She wore a puffy coat and clutched a small suitcase at her feet. "Mommy!" Ava squealed, running forward. James tensed, uncertain how to react. The court order stated supervised contact only, but here she was, ignoring legal boundaries. Janelle knelt, hugging the kids, tears streaming. Logan latched onto her leg, uncertain but hungry for motherly affection. James set the grocery bags down, clearing his throat. "Janelle, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to show up unannounced." She swallowed hard, voice trembling. I just needed to see them. I promise I won't cause trouble. It's so cold out. Please, let me come inside for a moment. Conflicting emotions tore at James. He hated to see the kids left in the cold, hugging their mother. But the betrayal was fresh, the legal lines drawn. You know the arrangement, Janelle, he said quietly. You want visitation? Go through the court. I can't let you in. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she kept her voice low, likely not wanting to upset the children further. I have nowhere else to stay. Leon's worthless. My friends are tired of the drama. My job might be gone. Please, James, don't shut me out completely. Ava clung to Janelle, looking at James with big eyes. Daddy, can we let Mommy in? She's cold. He felt the child's plea like a knife twist. After a fraught pause, he said, All right. Kids, go hang your coats. Mommy can come inside, but just for a short talk. Inside, the living room felt too small, tension thick. Janelle stood awkwardly, glancing at the scattered toys, the fresh pictures on the mantel that no longer featured her. The kids retreated to watch cartoons, giving the adults space to talk in hushed tones. She turned to James. I ended things with Leon, I swear. He's gone off the rails. I was stupid. He was never going to marry me or provide a stable life. I see that now. James maintained a stiff posture. And you realized this only after the scandal, after he lost his endorsements, after he got arrested for assaulting me? The bitterness in his tone was undeniable. She flinched. Yes, maybe. But I do regret everything. I destroyed our marriage, I see that. I miss you. I want to fix it for the kids. A laugh escaped him, cold and mirthless. Fix it? After you repeatedly lied, snuck around, publicly humiliated me? After you let that man break into my home? Are you serious? Her face fell. I was lost. I chased excitement and attention. Leon promised me thrills, and I felt neglected by you, always working, ignoring me. He bristled. So that justifies betraying me and risking our kids' stability? Don't pin this on me. We could have addressed issues if you tried talking, but you went for an affair. As the argument escalated, James's phone buzzed. Checking the screen, he saw Diego calling. He stepped aside, leaving Janelle teary-eyed in the living room. Hey, James answered. Diego's voice came urgent. I heard from the court clerk the custody hearing is being expedited. The judge wants to review the environment, especially after Leon's break-in. They might call you in next week. James nodded, glancing back at Janelle, who was trying to console the children. She's here right now, wanting to come back. She's playing the remorse card, Diego hissed. Don't fall for it. Keep the boundary. The judge will see you're stable and consistent. She's the one who violated trust. Let the kids see her if the judge says so, but no more than that. James inhaled. Understood. She wants to stay the night. Says she has nowhere else. Diego's tone hardened. If you let her, it complicates your narrative that she's unfit or untrustworthy. She can crash elsewhere. Don't sabotage your case. Just politely show her the door. Ending the call, James braced himself for the looming confrontation. Returning to the living room, he found Janelle hugging Ava on the couch, Logan perched on the armrest. The sight tugged at him, a mother with genuine affection for her kids. But the betrayal overshadowed everything. He approached, voice carefully modulated. Kids, it's bedtime soon. Mommy can say goodnight, but she can't stay. Ava's face scrunched in confusion. Why not, Daddy? She can sleep here, right? Janelle bit her lip, tears glistening. James, please. One night. The kids want me here. He steeled himself. We have a court hearing soon. Our lawyers must handle custody. You showing up unannounced is not okay. If you truly care, you'll follow the legal process. She protested, but he gently escorted her to the front door. The children started tearing up, which crushed James inside. But he remained firm, guiding them back to their room, promising they'd see Mommy soon under proper conditions. Janelle left sobbing, her suitcase dragging in the snow. The moment the door shut, James let out a shaky breath. The children stared at him, sad and perplexed. He knelt, pulling them into a hug, murmuring reassurances. It's all for their best interests, he told himself, ignoring the ache in his chest. A few days later, James got word that Leon made bail on the assault charges, courtesy of high-priced lawyers. He was required to wear an ankle monitor, restricted from approaching James or the kids. Freed from jail, he posted a scathing rant on social media, claiming James was exploiting the system, that Janelle was no victim, and he'd prove it in court. Public reaction was mixed, with many slamming him for whining about consequences of his own affair. Diego smirked, telling James, "Every rant he posts just makes him look worse to the judge. Keep track of it all." James nodded. "What about Janelle? She's texting me about reconciling. She must realize Leon's not a safe bet now that he's tarnished." Diego shrugged. "Doesn't matter. Stick to the plan. Full custody. Let the courts finalize the divorce. Any attempt she makes to wriggle back is pure desperation." Meanwhile, the children sensed the tension. Ava began asking pointed questions. "Why can't Mommy stay the night, Daddy? She was crying." Logan, too young to articulate confusion, grew clingy, throwing tantrums at bedtime. James's heart broke seeing them torn between love for both parents. He arranged a child therapist session, hoping professional support could ease their anxiety. The therapist praised James for providing stability, cautioning that abrupt changes in living arrangements or forced reunions could further stress the kids. She recommended waiting for the custody hearing outcome, letting the legal structure shape supervised visits. James followed that advice, though each day tested his resolve. It was excruciating to watch them yearn for their mother, to feel a pang of guilt for shutting Janelle out. But every memory of her betrayal stiffened his spine. "I can't yield," he told himself. "She threw away our marriage. I have to protect Ava and Logan from her chaos." The expedited custody hearing arrived. James, dressed in a crisp suit, left the kids with his parents and walked into the courthouse alongside Diego. The halls buzzed with quiet tension. Across the aisle, Janelle stood in a subdued blouse, eyes puffy, flanked by a younger lawyer. She cast a pleading glance at James, who ignored her. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with silver hair, opened the session. Diego presented James's stance. Janelle had committed adultery, neglected the kids for her affair, associated with a violent man who literally broke into James's home. The judge reviewed the evidence photos, texts, the Mirage meltdown footage, the police report about Leon's assault. She scowled at the details. Janelle's lawyer attempted a defense. Ms. Janelle confesses to an affair, but insists it did not affect her children's care. She regrets everything, is willing to do counseling, begs the court for joint custody. Janelle sniffled, nodding fervently. Diego rebutted with the timeline of her late nights, the kids left with James or grandparents, her repeated lying. The judge's expression hardened. "You recognized your children needed a stable environment. Yet you continued this extramarital relationship with a man who later attacked Mr. James in his own home. That speaks volumes." James watched Janelle wilt under the judge's glare. He felt a pang. This was the mother of my kids, but pressed on, determined. After an hour of back and forth, the judge ruled for temporary full custody to remain with James, pending the final divorce resolution. She authorized limited supervised visits for Janelle at a family center, subject to a schedule that James approved. Janelle broke into tears. The judge maintained a firm tone, saying, "Your affair and involvement with a violent partner show poor judgment. If you truly want to restore your role in the kids' lives, demonstrate consistent responsibility, not emotional pleas." James exhaled slowly, relief and sadness mingling. Janelle stared at him with watery eyes, whispering, "Please, James, please let me see them more." But the judge's order was final for now. Outside the courtroom, Janelle tried to approach, but James and Diego brushed past. Diego muttered, "We gave her a chance. She blew it." Meanwhile, local reporters had gleaned that Leon's ex-lovers were coming forward with stories. The scandal was ballooning, overshadowing Janelle's illusions of reconciling. She sat on a bench, weeping as James walked away, each step echoing in the marble hallway. Days later, James took the kids out for ice cream to celebrate the small victory. They'd remain under his stable care. No surprise intrusions. The children brightened, momentarily forgetting the family strife. As they laughed over chocolate cones, James forced a smile. This is what matters, he reminded himself. Their happiness. Janelle can handle her own meltdown. Leon can drown in lawsuits and disgrace. He felt an odd sense that, despite the heartbreak, he was forging a new normal for Ava and Logan. A life free of the tension, the lies. He still had to finalize the divorce, see how Leon's assault case ended, maybe collect damages from the alienation lawsuit. But for now, the crucial piece custody was firmly in his hands. He felt a surge of gratitude that at least in the chaos, he'd protected his kids from further harm. As the sun set that night, painting the sky in purples and pinks, James sat on his back porch, sipping a quiet cup of coffee. The house behind him was calmer without Janelle's manipulative presence. The children giggled inside, playing with toy dinosaurs, and James let himself breathe, a measure of victory filling his lungs. "I'm not a victim," he thought. "I'm a survivor, a father, and a man who refused to be trampled." Chapter 9. The first day of spring brought a hesitant warmth to Boston, melting snow piles and revealing the battered grass beneath. For James, though, the shift in season felt more symbolic than literal. He was stepping into a new phase of the legal battle, with Leon's upcoming court date for the assault and break-in charges just days away. James walked the kids, Ava and Logan, to the door of their elementary school, each clutching bright lunch bags. He knelt to give them each a hug. Logan blinked up at him, 4 years old, curly-haired and cheerful. "Daddy, you pick us up after school, right?" "Absolutely, buddy," James assured, ruffling the boy's hair. "I'll be right here at 3. Ava, 6, studied him with surprising solemnity. "We have a drawing contest today. Mommy used to help me pick colors, but she's not here." She bit her lip. "Will you help me if I bring it home?" A pang stabbed at James's heart. "Of course, sweetie. Show me all your drawings. I'll help however I can." He mustered a reassuring smile, ignoring the guilt that Janelle's absence still haunted their routine. The children had adapted bravely, but every now and then they showed glimpses of hurt. The teacher ushered them in. James stood, exhaling, gaze drifting over the bustling schoolyard. He'd found solace in the normality of fatherhood, preparing lunches, reading bedtime stories, maintaining structure. Yet the legal chaos churned in the background, a relentless swirl of lawsuits, depositions, and the incessant rumor mill around Leon Morgan, the star pitcher turned scandal magnet. He headed back to his SUV, flipping on the radio to a sports talk station. Almost immediately, a segment about Leon came up. This upcoming hearing could determine if Leon's baseball career is salvageable. Some insiders say the Hurricanes might cut him permanently if convicted. James smirked, turning the volume down. Serves him right, he thought, pulling onto the main road. Over the past couple of weeks, Janelle had tried multiple avenues to reconnect with James, each thwarted by the restraining order or by James's unwavering stance. Court documents labeled her an unfit mother, harsh words, but supported by the evidence of her affair, her lies, and her involvement with Leon's violent break-in. At times, James felt a twinge of pity, recalling how once she was a lively partner, supporting him through his cybersecurity career. But pity didn't override the betrayal that shattered their home. He'd learned through acquaintances that Janelle was couch surfing at a co-worker's place, her finances in shambles. Her law firm gave her a final warning of potential termination, citing the negative publicity from her involvement with Leon. The rumor was she might be fired any day now. The old James might have stepped in to help, but that James died the day she took Leon's arm in a VIP booth, bragging about losing me at dinner. Now, he felt only a steely clarity. If she wanted to see Ava and Logan, she'd follow court mandates, nothing more. One afternoon, while James was finalizing some project from his home office, the phone buzzed with an unknown number. He answered, half expecting reporters. Instead, it was Janelle's mother, a gentle-voiced woman who had once adored James. "James," she said softly, "I'm so sorry about everything. Janelle's not well. Can you at least speak to her? See if there's a path to less hostility?" James paused, heart twisting. He respected Janelle's mother, who had no blame in all this. But he refused to be guilted. "I'm sorry she's hurting, but I can't fix the damage she caused. The kids are my priority now." Her mother sighed, voice trembling. "I understand. Just keep in mind, forgiveness is also healing for you. Don't let bitterness consume you." James's jaw tightened. "Thanks for the concern, but I can't let my guard down, not after all she's done." He ended the call gently, feeling a swirl of conflicting emotions. That evening, Diego swung by James's house, arms loaded with folders. He plopped them on the dining table, ignoring the children's curious stares. "Go watch your show, kiddos," James said with a kind smile, ushering them to the living room. Ava gave an inquisitive glance, but obeyed. Alone in the dining room, Diego spread out paperwork. "Here's the latest. Leon's hearing is set for Monday morning. The DA is confident they'll land a conviction or at least a plea deal. They have your 911 call, neighbor statements, the forcibly broken door, and your bruises as evidence. It's rock solid." James nodded, flipping through photos of the shattered door, the battered frame. "Good. Let him face the consequences." Diego continued. "Meanwhile, the Hurricanes are hinting they'll sever his contract if he's found guilty. Sponsors have mostly suspended deals. Financially, he's cornered. That means our alienation of affection lawsuit stands a chance of netting a significant settlement unless he's broke. But it's about principle." James exhaled. "I do want compensation for emotional harm. Even if he's bankrupt, the principle matters." Diego shot him a wry grin. "We'll see what we can squeeze out. Also, the divorce final hearing is in a few weeks. The judge won't likely grant Janelle any custody beyond supervised visits. She's shown zero improvement, except claiming she regrets everything." James drummed his fingers on the table. "She does regret it, but not for moral reasons, just because it backfired. Let's finalize everything swiftly." Though James was resolute in punishing Janelle and Leon, he still recognized the children needed clarity. At the child therapist's suggestion, he agreed to a short family therapy session for Ava and Logan's sake under professional supervision. Janelle would be present, but only in a controlled setting. The idea was to let the kids see their mother in a stable environment, express their feelings, and get some closure. James arrived at the therapist's office on a cloudy Wednesday. The waiting area had pastel walls and a shelf of children's books. Janelle was already inside, fiddling anxiously with her phone. When James entered with Ava and Logan, she stood, tears welling. Logan scampered to her while Ava hung back, uncertain. The therapist, a warm-faced woman named Dr. Gray, ushered them into a cozy room with bean bags and crayons. For the first part, Dr. Gray spoke softly to the children. "This is a safe space to share. Mommy and Daddy want you to be happy." Ava nodded, clutching a stuffed animal Dr. Gray offered. Janelle tried to explain in gentle terms that she made mistakes, that she hurt Daddy's feelings. James remained silent, arms crossed, letting her speak to the kids. He wanted them to see she was apologetic. Logan just asked, "When you come home, Mommy?" Janelle faltered, glancing at James with tear-filled eyes. He cleared his throat, carefully controlling his tone. "Mommy and I have to follow grown-up rules. For now, you'll see her like this, in visits. It's not your fault. You did nothing wrong." Ava sniffled. "It's not fair," she whispered, tears gathering. "Why can't we be together?" Janelle broke into sobs, muttering, "I'm sorry, sweethearts. I promise I'll fix it someday." James stayed stoic, though inside he felt shards of pain seeing his children's confusion. "This is on you, Janelle," he wanted to say. "You tore us apart." After the kids returned to the waiting room with a therapy assistant, Dr. Gray asked James and Janelle to remain for a quick adult session. Janelle immediately pleaded, "James, please can't we settle without you cutting me off? I realize how deeply I betrayed you. I was blinded by Leon's fame. I want to try to fix it." He forced a calm reply. "Fix what? We're too far gone. You hurt me, the kids. Our entire life. Did you think I'd shrug off your months of cheating, your lying, Leon's breaking?" She shook her head, tears dripping. "No, I know it's huge. But I still love you, in some way. If you just—" "Stop," he cut in, voice trembling with fury. "I saw you with him, how you laughed, how you let him degrade me. Love? That's not love. That's self-serving nonsense." Dr. Gray attempted to guide them gently. "We need a respectful exchange. Janelle, what are you hoping for?" Janelle swallowed. I hope someday James can forgive me enough to co-parent civilly. Let me be a meaningful part of the kids' lives. And maybe, if it's not too late, we find a path." James hissed. "We're divorcing. That path is gone." He turned to Dr. Gray. "I'm only here for the kids' emotional well-being. I have no intention of reuniting." Dr. Gray nodded, acknowledging. Understood. So Janelle must accept that and focus on being a stable parent in the limited context allowed. She turned to Janelle. "That's the reality. Are you prepared to comply?" Janelle closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Yes, I'll do anything to see them." 2 days later, Leon faced the first official hearing for his assault charges. Media cameras swarmed the courthouse steps. James, advised by Diego, chose to stay away to avoid feeding the frenzy. But Tess, the reporter, kept him updated via text from inside the courtroom. She described how Leon, in a dark suit, tried to appear composed, but the prosecution hammered him with evidence. The forced entry, neighbor testimonies of hearing him shout threats. Even some of Leon's ex-lovers had come forward, painting him as a hot-headed narcissist, prone to violence. He looked cornered, with his high-priced attorney attempting to deflect blame onto poor mental health and alcohol abuse. The judge was unsympathetic. Tess texted James. "He's definitely going down. The judge called him a flight risk. He's stuck with an ankle monitor if he makes bail." James read this with satisfaction. Good. Another nail in Leon's coffin. The DA had strong evidence. No matter how flashy his lawyers were, he faced real consequences. As if the criminal case wasn't enough, The Hurricanes finally announced Leon's official release from the team. The statement cited breach of moral conduct and unacceptable off-field behavior. Sports analysts debated if any other team would pick him up. Sponsors parted ways. Public condemnation soared. Leon's once-lavish lifestyle teetered on the brink. He was forced to list his upscale condo for sale, presumably to cover legal fees. Diego saw opportunity. "We'll push for a settlement in the alienation of affection lawsuit before he goes bankrupt," he told James. "If we wait, there might be no money left to collect." James concurred. The plan was to demand a hefty sum or face a drawn-out trial. Leon likely would cave, hoping to salvage what he could. A week later, James received an unexpected note from Janelle's new lawyer her prior counsel had withdrawn after the fiasco. This new lawyer suggested mediation for the sake of your children. James almost scoffed, but relented. He agreed to a session, not for marriage, but to expedite custody terms without a drag-it-out court fight. If Janelle cooperated, maybe the kids would have a stable routine for visitation. At the mediator's office, a calm, beige-walled space, James arrived first, feeling tense. Janelle came in, eyes downcast. The mediator introduced herself as Ms. Clark, explaining that they'd aim to settle visitation schedules, child support, and property division. Janelle's hands shook as she explained she had almost no income now. The law firm was terminating her, and she needed spousal support. James raised an eyebrow. "You want spousal support after you destroyed the marriage? In my state, that's not how it works, especially under an at-fault divorce for adultery. Let's be realistic." Janelle's lawyer tried to argue that she dedicated years to the household, raising kids, assisting James's work, but James retorted that she also jeopardized the family's finances with her affair, creating scandal. Ms. Clark attempted to keep the discussion civil, but recognized James wasn't budging. The eventual compromise was minimal spousal support for a short transitional period, subject to the judge's final approval, and only if she abided by all custody rules. The children's visitation schedule ended up as supervised visits at a family center twice a month, with a gradual path to unsupervised if Janelle met therapy milestones. Janelle accepted it tearfully, whispering how she missed them daily. James stayed stone-faced, focusing on the kids' best interest. Leon's criminal case progressed. He faced an arraignment, brandishing his final attempt at bravado. Reports said he pleaded not guilty, claiming James attacked him first and he only entered to talk. But the evidence, plus his smashed face from the skillet, worked against him. The judge refused to dismiss the charges, setting a trial date. Meanwhile, Leon's attorney scrambled to arrange a plea deal, rumored to include mandatory rehab or anger management. The DA, seeing how high-profile it was, demanded a felony plea, which Leon resisted. James watched from the sidelines, gleaning updates from court documents. Diego announced that if Leon was convicted of a felony, James's lawsuit might be unstoppable. He'd practically be forced to settle. He can't afford a civil trial on top of a criminal conviction, Diego explained. James nodded grimly, longing to see that arrogant man pay. Amid these swirling legal storms, James found a strange calm settle over him. He kept life steady for Ava and Logan, helping them with homework, hosting small play dates, cooking homemade pizza on Fridays. Each night he read them stories, noticing Ava's eyes losing their sadness as time passed. Logan drew pictures of dinosaurs battling ninjas, showing them off proudly. Slowly, the house regained warmth, no longer overshadowed by Janelle's secrecy or Leon's intrusions. One evening, James stepped onto the back porch, gazing at the yard where the kids once built a snowman with Janelle's help. The meltdown of his marriage felt both distant and painfully recent. But he reminded himself, I'm forging a new normal. The cast-iron skillet fiasco might haunt him, but it also symbolized his refusal to be a victim. He was no doormat husband. He'd stood up, fought back, and protected his family. As he sipped a mug of steaming tea, phone buzzed Diego again. We have a new court date soon for the final divorce settlement. Janelle's caving to our custody terms. Also heard rumors Leon's team might propose a settlement. Let's talk tomorrow. James exhaled, letting tension slip from his shoulders. Yes, we're almost there, he thought. With the final court battles on the horizon, the end of this vile chapter loomed, and from the ashes he'd stand victorious, no longer weighed by betrayal. Chapter 10. 2 weeks after the custody hearing, the legal machinery churned steadily toward finality. News circulated that Leon was considering a plea bargain to avoid a drawn-out criminal trial for the assault on James and the break-in. Whispers suggested he might plead guilty to lesser charges, like aggravated trespassing or misdemeanor assault, in exchange for dropping the felony count. The DA remained tough, not eager to hand him a lenient deal. James monitored these developments with measured satisfaction. If Leon pleaded guilty, it would bolster James's civil suit for alienation of affection and emotional distress. Meanwhile, James also read rumors that Hurricane's management was 99% sure they'd officially terminate Leon's contract. Sponsors likewise had no intention of resigning him. The once glamorous pitcher was nearing professional ruin. To James, it seemed poetic justice. Janelle had sought excitement with a local celebrity, only to discover that stardom quickly rotted under scandal. One crisp morning, James was sipping coffee at his kitchen table, reviewing the kids' new school schedule, when his phone rang an unknown number again. He almost let it go to voicemail, but curiosity won. A brisk male voice greeted him. "Hello, Mr. James. I'm Attorney Franklin, representing Mr. Leon Morgan in certain civil matters. May I have a moment?" James's gut tightened. "Yes. Go on." Franklin cleared his throat. "We're aware you filed an alienation of affection suit. Leon wants to avoid protracted litigation. We'd like to discuss a potential settlement out of court. No admission of wrongdoing, of course, but a financial arrangement." James forced his voice calm. "So Leon is caving. I'm open to hearing numbers, but let's be clear, your client caused irreparable harm. I have no reason to show mercy." Franklin gave a lawyerly chuckle. "Understood. We can negotiate, though. If this goes to trial, it'll be messy, and Mr. Morgan's finances might be complicated soon. Better to strike a deal. Let's meet next week with your counsel." James exhaled. "Fine. I'll speak to my lawyer. We'll arrange a time." Hanging up, he felt a rush of vindication. Leon's bravado is cracking. Simultaneously, Diego informed James that the final divorce hearing was set for early next month. Given Janelle's meltdown, the uncontested evidence of her adultery, plus the break-in fiasco, the judge would likely finalize it swiftly, awarding James full custody. Janelle, though, might argue for some minimal spousal support due to her job loss, but the blame for her job loss lay in her affair scandal. Diego predicted a minimal or zero spousal award. James clutched at these updates like lifelines. Once the divorce was finalized, he'd have closure from the marriage that used to define his life. The heartbreak still lingered, but the illusions of reconciliation had died. The children's well-being remained top priority, and the custody arrangement was locked in James's favor for the foreseeable future. Despite everything, Janelle still tried to contact James occasionally, sometimes showing up at the supervised family center for her scheduled visits with Ava and Logan. One evening, after a short visitation session, James arrived to pick up the kids. Janelle lingered by the exit, eyes red from crying. She asked for a brief word alone with him. They stepped aside into a small corridor. She sniffled. I've found a part-time job in an administrative role. It's not much, but I'm trying, James. Please, once the divorce is final, can we keep things civil? For the kids? He regarded her, arms folded. Civil is fine, but don't expect more. You ended us. She swallowed hard. I know. I'm so sorry. If I could take it back? Her voice wavered, tears threatening again. He closed his eyes briefly, recalling the nights he'd lie awake, imagining a scenario where they never tore apart. But that was fantasy. It's done. Focus on rebuilding your life. I'll do what's best for the kids. She nodded miserably. I understand. Then she turned away, shoulders slumped. James escorted the children out, ignoring Janelle's watery gaze. He felt a pang of pity, but buried it beneath his unwavering resolve. She chose Leon. She sealed her fate. Later that week, James and Diego met with Franklin, Leon's attorney, in a sterile conference room at a downtown office suite. No sign of Leon himself, likely too ashamed or arrogant to face James again. Franklin cut to the chase. Our client proposes a lump sum settlement of X $100,000 to resolve the alienation of affection suit, plus a mutual non-disparagement clause. Diego flipped through the draft settlement, glancing at James. This figure is low considering Mr. Morgan's net worth and the severity of his conduct. Also, James is free to speak the truth about what happened. We're not accepting a gag order lightly. Franklin tried to look composed. Leon's sponsored deals are evaporating. His contract is essentially void. He won't have the massive income you expect. We could fight in court, but that helps no one. Let's be practical. James clenched his jaw, remembering every humiliating moment, from the VIP lounge to the break-in. Your client caused me and my children immeasurable distress. He nearly sabotaged my entire life. This sum is insulting. Diego tapped a pen. We'll need at least triple that number to consider a settlement plus an apology statement acknowledging wrongdoing. Franklin winced. An apology statement might be feasible, but triple the sum? Leon can't manage that. He paused, then sighed. Let me speak to him. We might meet you halfway, but no apology. He insists on no formal admission of guilt. James exhaled. So Leon remains defiant. He turned to Diego, who gave a subtle nod. We'll see, Diego said, but be prepared for trial if your client balks. Franklin gathered his papers, mumbling about further instructions. The meeting ended. James left the office, heart pounding with an undercurrent of satisfaction. If Leon was scrounging to pay even partial settlement, that was retribution in itself. Let him sweat. In the midst of legal storms, James's daily life found a surprising rhythm. He managed his cybersecurity job from home some days, picking the kids up from school, helping them with homework. Sundays, they'd visit James's parents for a family dinner. Ava began painting bright spring flowers, pinning them on the fridge. Logan lugged toy dinosaurs everywhere, roaring through the house with endearing confidence. James realized that while heartbreak lingered, this new normal offered serenity. No more late-night tension with Janelle creeping in or suspicious phone calls. He was father and head of household on his own terms, determined to keep the children's environment loving and secure. Some nights, though, he caught glimpses of old wedding photos stuffed in a closet, a wave of sadness hitting him. But the sadness no longer crushed him. It simply reminded him of how far he'd come. A surprising development arose when Tess sent James a leaked draft of a so-called public apology letter that Leon's PR team was floating, presumably to salvage his battered image. The letter read in part, I deeply regret the personal choices that led to conflict and negative publicity. While I do not admit to all accusations, I acknowledge mishandling certain relationships. The vague language made James roll his eyes. Tess explained via text that Leon's team hoped to placate fans and quell the sponsor exodus. "He's basically half apologizing," she wrote. "No mention of you or Janelle by name, but it's a transparent attempt at damage control." James forwarded the draft to Diego. "So they're trying to spin it." He wondered if that meant they'd accelerate the settlement. Possibly Leon hoped to resurrect his career in a year or two if the scandal cooled. James's only concern was ensuring he emerged with full custody, a finalized divorce, and decent compensation for the turmoil. Finally, the day for James's divorce hearing arrived. The courthouse felt like familiar territory by now. James stepped inside with Diego at his side, wearing a crisp navy suit. The hearing would address final property division, custody, and spousal support requests. Janelle was present, wearing a subdued black dress, her hair pinned back, face pale. She offered no pleasantries, eyes cast downward. The judge, a different one from earlier custody motions, reviewed the case file, nodding occasionally at the mention of Leon's affair, the break-in, and Janelle's admitted adultery. Diego presented the meticulously organized evidence, from phone logs to photos to eyewitness statements. Janelle's lawyer attempted a half-hearted defense, that Janelle was emotionally neglected, that she'd shown remorse, that she was unemployed and needed spousal support. James sat calmly, arms folded, letting Diego slice through each argument. "My client has the children's best interest in mind. He is the stable parent. Ms. Janelle's own actions introduced chaos, nearly endangering the kids via her paramour's violent intrusion. As for spousal support, her unemployment is a direct result of negative publicity from her affair. We see no justification for awarding her the fruits of her misconduct." The judge listened intently, then asked Janelle if she disputed any facts. She quietly shook her head, admitting she'd made grave mistakes. She tried to plead. "I only ask for a short transitional help. I can't get a job easily right now." After a recess, the judge delivered the ruling. James felt his pulse hammering. This was the final word on the marriage he once cherished. The judge stated clearly, full legal and physical custody of Ava and Logan to James, given Janelle's proven adultery, moral turpitude, and involvement with a violent partner. Supervised visitation for Janelle with a gradual path to unsupervised if she maintained stable employment, therapy, and no further misconduct. Property settlement. The marital home belonged to James outright. He'd already replaced the door, ironically. Janelle forfeited claims to certain joint assets due to her at-fault status. Spousal support. Minimal short-term alimony for 6 months, just enough to let her transition, given the judge's stance that her predicament is largely self-created. A hush fell. Janelle bowed her head, tears dripping. She rasped a thanks to the judge for some mercy. James closed his eyes, exhaling relief and sadness. It was over. The marriage that started with so much promise ended in a formal decree overshadowed by betrayal. Walking out of the courtroom, James felt a weight lift. Divorced, freed from Janelle's grasp. The children were his priority, and the court recognized that. Diego clapped him on the back, murmuring congratulations on securing full custody. Across the corridor, Janelle stood, tearful, hugging her meager box of personal papers. She glanced at James with heartbreak etched in her features, but he offered no comfort, just a polite, distant nod. She whispered, "I'm sorry," one last time, then trudged away. James stepped outside into the mild spring air. The sunshine felt warm on his face, symbolic of a future no longer dimmed by secrets. The final confrontation with Janelle had ended quietly, legally sealed. Leon still loomed as a separate matter, the alienation of affection suit, but James felt ready to handle that. He had the kids safe, the house secure, the divorce settled. That was victory enough for this day. Chapter 11. As James settled into post-divorce life, a quiet calm prevailed in the house. The children, Ava and Logan, adjusted to the new normal weekdays with Dad, occasional supervised visits with Janelle. They still asked about their mother, but James focused on keeping them stable and happy. Leon's assault trial loomed. Despite his lawyer's bravado, rumors indicated he might strike a plea deal, pleading guilty to a misdemeanor to avoid a full felony charge. His public image had plummeted. The hurricanes cut him. Sponsors vanished. Diego, James's lawyer, pressed forward with the alienation of affection lawsuit. Stalling wouldn't help Leon. His finances bled faster each day. Diego predicted a settlement soon, especially as Leon faced possible jail time if convicted. Amid this chaos, Tess continued her coverage, shining a spotlight on Leon's downfall. Public sympathy favored James as the betrayed husband who defended his home. Talk radio segments praised him for standing his ground against a cocky athlete. Janelle tried to demonstrate contrition, attending therapy, showing up promptly at the family center visits. She rarely spoke to James, only a hushed thank you or goodbye. The heartbreak lingered between them, but he maintained a courteous distance for the kids' sake. One afternoon, James overheard Ava telling Janelle, "You can't come home. Daddy said it's not safe." Janelle merely nodded, tears in her eyes, confirming her acceptance that the marriage was truly over. Leon's plea. The DA finally announced Leon pleaded guilty to a lesser assault charge. The court sentenced him to probation, mandatory anger management, and a steep fine. The battered star pitcher emerged from the courthouse with no career prospects in sight. Days later, his lawyer approached James with a final settlement proposal to end the civil lawsuit. A hefty sum, less than James hoped, but enough to underscore that Leon lost. James accepted, wanting closure. Resolution. With the settlement checks and the divorce behind him, James felt a weight lift. The heartbreak remained, but so did a sense of triumph. He'd protected his children, exposed the affair, forced Leon to face consequences. One night, after tucking the kids in, James gazed at old photos stored in a box. Memories of a happier time stung, but he closed the box with resolve. Life moved forward. The next chapter beckoned free from Janelle's betrayal and Leon's arrogance. He could rebuild a safer, more loving home for Ava and Logan. Chapter 12. Summer arrived, casting bright sunshine on James's suburban neighborhood. The final divorce paperwork arrived in the mail, the official decree stamped and sealed. He felt relief wash over him, a tangible sign that he could fully move on. The children thrived. Ava joined a local art club, painting bold canvases that decorated their living room. Logan became obsessed with t-ball, excitedly practicing swings in the backyard. James cheered them both on, grateful for their resilience. Janelle, living in a modest rented room, continued weekly therapy. During supervised visits at the family center, she showed genuine remorse. Though James remained wary, he allowed the kids to see her progress. Gradually, they settled into a civil co-parenting arrangement, painful but stable. Leon vanished from the sports scene, rumored to be training overseas or chasing minor leagues. Whispers said he'd burned too many bridges. The tabloids occasionally mentioned his attempts at a comeback, but the scandal overshadowed any sympathy. Diego concluded the alienation off affection case. With Leon's settlement paid, James secured enough funds to cover the children's future needs. The moral victory was sweeter. Everyone recognized Leon's role in destroying a marriage. Tess published a final expose titled A Cautionary Tale, Fame, Betrayal, and Skillet Justice, summarizing Leon's downfall. She kept James's identity light, focusing on lessons about arrogance and family loyalty. At home, James quietly rearranged photo frames. New pictures of Ava and Logan's smiles replaced old wedding photos. The house no longer felt haunted. Instead, it radiated a renewed warmth, a father's devotion. Occasionally, Janelle asked about the possibility of trying again. James maintained his stance. The trust was gone. He wished her well in rebuilding her life, but refused to reopen old wounds. The kids were their only shared bond now. Peaceful days, freed from scandal, James focused on career growth in cybersecurity, balanced with fatherhood. Each evening, the children's laughter reminded him he'd chosen the right path. No meek acceptance, just firm, loving leadership, a glimpse of tomorrow. One summer dusk, James watched Ava and Logan chase fireflies in the yard. Their giggles echoed across the lawn. He sipped iced tea, reflecting on how far they'd come since that painful winter. Though scars remained, he felt proud he never cowered to betrayal. The next chapter stretched ahead, bright with promise, a testament to his unwavering resolve and love for his children. Hey, Vixen Cheating Tales listeners. If you